And I'm very glad to see people from all around the world here. So we have several continents, very nice. And the purpose of this meeting is to give you a little overview of what to expect. So how this program will work. I suppose by now you have some knowledge as students who participated in the project, and you saw at least some of them coaches. And then by now, I hope you started reading the materials, and the first couple of modules are specifically about the XCulture as a program, and then the coaching program within XCulture project. And so hopefully you already have some knowledge. I'll give you a quick overview, and the reason I scheduled it as a meeting, not as a webinar, so I wanted you to be here sort of around a table, so that if anything raises questions, please go ahead and ask those questions right away. So let's talk a little bit about why we do it and what's in it for you, for me, and how this program came about. We've had for many years now, at the end of each semester, requests from students who had participated before if they can participate again. And so in 2011, 12, 13, we would always have a bunch of students who do XCulture the second time, and then even sometimes the third time, and even some people did it more than 3 times. And at some point, it just became obvious that it doesn't make sense to keep asking them or keep inviting them to do the same thing over and over again. Yes, they do learn something in the process, they do become better at it, but it seems like by now they are so experienced that maybe they can be both better served themselves and learn more in the process, but also serve the next generation of XCulture students if they were not just team members, but coaches, mentors, managers, whichever way you want to call it. And so for the first time about 3 years ago, we had a small group of people, I think we had 7, who served as coaches. And at that time, their goal or job was primarily to provide feedback on the weekly submissions. But then, as you may know, XCulture has a very, very tiny budget. So it basically runs on enthusiasm, and much of the work is done by me and a couple of assistants we have here. And so we are always swamped in work, always have more than we can handle. And so at some point we thought, hey, we have all those coaches and they're smart people. Most of them are graduate students. Some of them already graduated. And so they're as experienced in XCulture as anyone is. And so maybe we should ask them to help us with managing the program. And so around 2016, I believe, we started adding to that some functions, like, for example, conflict resolution, or maybe some facilitating different difficult situations in teams. And slowly, we're adding functions until basically you see what we have now. So now coaches perform all kinds of functions, all kinds of duties, both around helping the teams, but also doing some other things that perhaps may not be that necessary for the students, but still give coaches an interesting experience. Like, for example, the pet project that we launched last semester, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And so the main idea for you, or the main value for you, for the trainees in the coaching program, is essentially gaining real practical managerial team management experience. The idea here is that by the time you will be applying for jobs, which for most of you will be very soon, we would like you to have on your resume, as well as in your sort of experience basket, have things and skills and experiences that other applicants don't have. And so going through XCulture, the regular project, obviously students gain this valuable international collaboration experience, which many other applicants don't have. But it's still being just a member of a team. It's a lot. It's more than most people have. But it's only being a member of a team, being a consultant, being an international team member. Whereas with the coaches, it's essentially being a manager to dozens, if not hundreds, of global virtual consulting teams. This is the type of experience that even seasoned managers often don't have. So by the time you're done with this project, you will have done so many different things, as I said, provided feedback, selected winners, resolved conflicts, read the comments, basically journals from the teams every week, so you kind of know what's going on there, develop some intuitions there, developed and organized webinars, delivered video lectures, ran all kinds of other projects that fall under this pet project program. So all kinds of things. And then on top of that, we will constantly ask you, do you see any problems with the project itself? Can you help us make XCulture better? So we're basically talking here about project design and company management as well. And so for you, the main interest, let me just see if I can. So for you, the main interest is essentially gaining experience and putting that on your resume, as well as hopefully meeting people around the world who knows, in the future can become your business partners, co-workers, employees, maybe even boyfriends, girlfriends that happened before. So I don't see a problem with that either. For us, the interest is mainly, again, getting some help. So you will be doing some work, and for the first several weeks, it will take us more time to explain to you what needs to be done than to do it ourselves. But then soon enough, you will be skilled enough in that stuff so that you will be able to do some things on your own, and that will be big help for management of the program. And then, as I said, we sort of feel obligation and commitment to you as students. Not so long ago, you were our students. And so we sort of feel that we, as long as you want to grow with us, we should provide that opportunity. And so as you will learn in a few minutes, so we have the student program, but then we have the coaching program. And then on top of that, we have the head coach program. And then most of the people who have gone through the head coaching then also served as student ambassadors at the X-Culture Symposium. And then some of them literally are now created almost like companies within X-Culture that they're now running, and I'll talk about those again more. So essentially, you kind of grow, and we try to support that, and in the process, we grow with you. And so hopefully it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. So that's about why we do it, why for you, why for us. In terms of what you will be doing, a range of things. As I said, for the first 4 weeks, we will have the training, and a few words about that. So the reason for the pre-project training is twofold. One, first and foremost, obviously, we would like you to be properly prepared. So we would like you to sort of know how to handle things, what to expect, what the best strategies are. And so as you will see, the list of topics that will be covered in training are extremely practical. So everything we included here is basically things we know could be a problem, and we share with you our knowledge about the most effective solutions as of now. So basically, this is what can happen, this is what you do. So the first couple are more about the program in general, so you need to know what's going on here, but then after that, it will be basically all about, for example, communication. So we know what kind of problems occur, we know we're tested different ways to approach it, and we share that knowledge with you. Writing a business plan, again, so we'll show you what those business plans from students look like. We will analyze why some of them are bad, common mistakes. We will analyze why some of them are good, what are the interesting creative solutions. And so this way, not only will you be able to provide useful feedback to the teams as they will be submitting their work for your review, but also when your time comes to write your own business plans, hopefully you'll have a better sense of how to do it, what looks good, what looks bad. Having reviewed many of them, you will develop that intuition, sort of what's readable, what's not, what makes a good impression on the reader, investor, manager, and what potentially can turn them off. So things like that, conflict resolution, specific issues in international business. So all very, very practical, and basically each of those modules came from the need to address a specific problem. Then, so that's the training side. The other side of the theory section or phase is selection. So at this time, we received about 400 applications. From those, we've selected about 120, if I remember correctly, coaches, so including you. And so all of you have had very good records throughout the years you've been with us. As a student, some of you were in Macerata, so we met you there also sort of as a colleague already. And so all of you have already very good experience and record when it comes to your performance. But with the coaching program, there is one thing that we care a lot about, and that's your, I don't even know what to call it, tenacity, diligence, commitment, ability to stick around and do some work on a regular basis. We will be investing a lot of time in you on the one hand, and then on the other hand, your colleagues, students, and other coaches will depend on you. And so if something happens and you lose interest in the middle of the program, it will be a serious disruption to the process. So we will count on you to provide some, for example, weekly feedback on the submissions to a bunch of teams. And if you change your mind in the middle of the project, or if somebody is not serious enough or not committed enough, or something else goes wrong, that's a disruption to the process. That's a problem for us. And so these 4 weeks are also a test of basically your ability to do work, steady, clock in, clock out every day for an extended period of time. And so I know that many will drop out during this phase. I know that many people signed up at the time They thought it would be a good idea. It would be nice to gain that experience. It would be great to have that line on the resume, to get that certificate, recommendation letter. But at the same time, once they have to do some work, other things kick in, busy, broke up with my boyfriend, can't concentrate on anything, work, school, who knows. And some people will drop out. There will be also some people who will, despite their good performance as a team member, when it will come to those tests, will not do a very good job. And as you will see, the tests are relatively simple. As long as you try hard enough, there is no way you can fail. But some people will fail, and I'm not sure, again, if that's lack of interest or is it inability to comprehend simple tasks and then answer some questions about it. But in any case, if they can't do it, obviously we don't want those people in the program. After all, you sort of represent the organization, and your performance affects essentially my evaluations or other instructors' evaluations. When students ask for help and get it, and it's done promptly and effectively, obviously students are happy with the course in general, with the instructor in general, and so everybody wins. At the same time, if they ask for help, a coach is assigned to that, and then the coach disappears or doesn't provide good help, or perhaps cannot communicate effectively or cannot recommend anything useful, obviously students are not happy, and then it reflects poorly on all of us, so nobody wins from that. So obviously we want you to be both skilled, prepared, but also we want to know that you know and can sustain that level of performance for an extended period of time. Every week we will have an exam, and so as long as you pass all 4 exams, you will advance into the practical phase, and that's when the fun begins. So we will have about 1,000 teams this semester, and so your job will be to help them. And as I explained in the training modules, we tried a model where we assign a bunch of teams to each coach. So each of you will be responsible for, let's say, 50 teams or so. But then we didn't like that model, or it didn't work very well because, one, not all teams wanted to have a coach. Some of them saw coaches as sort of imposed superiors, and they didn't like it. And then some coaches are better than others. And so if you happen to be excellent, then your 50 teams will be unfairly advantaged because they have you. And then if somebody is not a good coach, that group of teams will be disadvantaged. And so the model we use now is sort of a mix of assignment versus walk-in. So the walk-in model is that students can always ask for help by sending an email to coaching@xculture.org. And so once we get that email, we assign a coach to the case. In fact, we assign always 2 coaches. Again, one reason for that is in case one is not available, then the other one hopefully is. And 2 working in a pair, hopefully, 2 heads are better than 1. You will get to know each other and develop some sort of relationships, but also one says something, the other one says, oh, that's not a good idea, let's discuss it. And hopefully in the process, you will develop better solutions. So walk-in model allows us, one, keep the kind of workload for the coaches roughly the same. So we assign the cases as they come, and basically we give them to those coaches who have the least work at this time. So this way everybody gets roughly the same amount of work. Second, we classify those requests for help. Is it a complaint? Is it a request for feedback? Is it somebody just confused and needs some clarification? So this way we can give each one of you a nice combination of tasks so that by the end of the program, you've done everything. You did provide feedback. You helped resolve conflicts. You did some counseling. Maybe somebody just needed basically almost like a psychiatrist, someone to talk to, a shrink. So you will have that experience as well. And so this way you will get a better variety of cases, and we'll see different teams, not just the teams that you happen to be assigned to. At the same time, there will be one thing that will happen every week on a more or less schedule, and that is some feedback to the teams based on their weekly submissions. And so there we usually assign you to a specific set of teams, although here the assignment is not so much by the team, but by the company. So you will at some point be asked to select which of the clients you would like to work on, and we have about 10 at this semester. And let's say you select the company that, Captive Voice, for example. So the company that makes the software that is designed to help kids with disabilities learn. And so let's say you like the company, you like technology, and so you are assigned to that company. So each week you will get the submissions that were submitted for that company, and you will then review them and provide some feedback. And so this way, some teams may change clients. So occasionally you may have a new team in that mix and that pool, or maybe somebody will drop out, but it will always be the same client and more or less the same teams throughout the project. And so this way you will sort of know better that specific challenge, you will know better that specific industry, you will see week after week what the teams do, and kind of you will see the progress. And so this way you will be better situated to provide quality feedback. And so here, again, we tried different models. There was one, for a couple of semesters, we did ask you to provide feedback on every single submission. But what happened was, since we have so many teams and it's so hard to provide detailed feedback on every submission, many coaches ended up just saying a couple of words in response to each submission. They would say, like, great job, or maybe provide a couple of standard sentences. So it was not deep, it was not very insightful, and it did require too much work for the coaches. What we do now is we have kind of cohort feedback. So you will get, let's say, 50, 60, 100 teams chose that company. And so you will be asked to review those submissions, but you will not comment on a specific submission, each one separately, but you will comment on the whole pool. So you will read all of them, and then you will say, okay, this week I read 100 submissions, and this is what I have to say, or this is the type of feedback I would like to provide. So for example, these are some of the common mistakes that I saw, and let me comment on them. So if you did this, here is what I would recommend you don't do or do in the future. Here are some interesting solutions that I saw. That's very interesting. Okay, I would like to comment on this specifically. Or maybe this formatting idea or this picture or this graph was very useful, so let me show you what it looks like. And so you don't have to read them all. You just flip the pages, you get a general idea, you look for some interesting things, either problematic or strong, and then you provide a few pages of feedback, but it's for the whole cohort. And so this way you can go really, really deep. You can provide much more useful feedback because you compare and contrast different submissions. And so teams can get much, much more information. And it's also less work for you. So you spend a couple of hours, maybe 1-2 hours just going through the submissions, getting a general impression, and then maybe another hour trying to write up your feedback. And that's basically what we have. And since we have only about 10 companies and we would like to have about 30 coaches in the end, so select like 30 best ones, that means that you will have about 3 coaches per company, in which case it means it will be also possible to split the workload or maybe, pull your ideas together and then polish it. So this way the feedback will be better and it will be a little bit less work for you. The usefulness of that exercise is that you will, as I said, develop sort of like an intuition over time of what a good business report looks like. Some of those things are obvious and can be codified. Like, for example, the whole report should be written using the same font and the same formatting. It's kind of understood, and we can explain that in words. But there will be some things that we can't really, I can't really explain why. But you look at that and you immediately feel either good or bad about a report because you've seen that stuff all over and over again. And so that's kind of the type of, again, as I said, it's almost like intuition that one can develop only after doing the same task for hundreds of times and, thoughtfully evaluating that submission and trying to come up with some feedback. So it will be a very, very useful experience for you in the future. It's similar to what we professors have when we are asked to do a review of journal paper submissions. When we submit a paper, there would be usually 3 reviewers who review our papers and then provide feedback, and then the editor either accepts or rejects the paper. And for the first years of your career, you only submit and get feedback. You usually get some criticism from the reviewers. But at some point, you start getting invitations to do the review. So it's done by other more senior professors. And so only when you do it over and over again, that's when you develop that sort of knowledge and understanding of how to write a paper. And honestly, I had many times a situation where I look at somebody's submission, I'm like, man, I did it all the time. And now that I see it, I have to comment on it. I see how bad this approach is. So it definitely teaches you how to do a better job. So that's another task. Then also you will be asked to read weekly comments from the teams. And again, here we will try to give you more or less the same pool of teams each week. So there will be a fairly large pool of teams. And so this way, again, you will kind of be able to track their performance and changes over time. And again, we will divide the number of teams roughly equally among you. So it will not be such a huge pool, but it will be still a lot of reading. And so you will not be required to do much about it, but you will be asked to keep your eyes open for possible conflicts and situations where students need help. So many students are not comfortable to come to coaching@xculture.org, send an email and ask for help. But when they provide the weekly comments, they often say things that, signal a problem. And so you will be asked to read those comments. And then if you see sort of a hidden or maybe an open, alert call for help, you will be then asked to inform the head coaches about that, and they will see if it's a known problem, if somebody's been assigned, and if not, they will perhaps ask you or some other coach to address it. And again, here you have two sort of benefits. On the one hand, students will be under your kind of watchful eye, and if something's not going right, if you sense a problem, we will reach out to them and say, we were reading your comments. We spotted that there is apparently a problem in your team. Would you like some help? We can assign a coach and help you. But at the same time, for you, it's almost like, I hope it doesn't sound wrong, but it's almost like you have access to reading the personal diaries of thousands, literally thousands of people, week after week. And so again, some of that is obvious and codifiable. Like if you see somebody says someone's bullying me or someone's not cooperating, that's clear. You know about that. You see it right away. You know what to do with it. But you will also see a lot of interesting stuff that is, much more subtle, much more fine. And so over time, you will sort of develop that understanding of what's going on in teams. You will literally have a good understanding of, how it goes week after week, how it develops over time, what people usually talk about, how it changes, from one week to another. Since you will be reading comments from the same teams, it will be sometimes interesting to see how one person talks about the situation and then another person about the same situation and then another person about the same situation. And so you will have many, many situations or instances where you will be like, whoa, that's interesting. Okay, so John talks about it as a victim, but then Bob doesn't see it that way. Bob thought he was just a nice friend, and so he was calling John that name not because he wanted to offend John, but because. So anyway, as I said, it will be very, very interesting time. And as I said, when asked what did you learn, in many cases you will not be able to put it in words, right away. But at the same time, you will develop that understanding, that almost like intuitive knowledge of what to expect in a team, how things develop, how people react to them. So when you manage teams or are a member of a team as part of your job, like literally I receive emails, not exactly dozens a week, but probably 2-3 times a month from a student who participated in the coaching program before. And then he says, you know what, I'm now working for this company and managing a team, or I'm a member of a team. Things that I saw in those diaries and those weekly submissions, that's exactly what I see all this, like every single day. So that actually did prepare me for this job and made me much, much more effective at what I do. And so that's why I'm especially happy, because, that's exactly the purpose and exactly the reason we would like you to go through this program. So that's another task. And then obviously you will have the cases. So when you are assigned to handle a case, you will be asked to work on it. And so one, obviously it will be experience, but one other thing that we will ask you to do after it's done is write a case report. And we're talking here about half a page sort of summary of the case. Again, several reasons for that. One, we would like to know what happened so that, if more help is needed, we can assign another coach or ask you to stay on the case a little longer. Second, you will see what other coaches write there. And so hopefully you will learn from one another. You will see what other cases coaches addressed, how they handled it, what happened. So you basically will see those case reports. But then also very importantly, those cases will go into your professional portfolio. So when your time comes to apply for jobs, you will not only have a recommendation letter and a certificate, but you will have this massive portfolio. And one of the components in that portfolio will be your case reports. And you will say, you know what, I've addressed or handled or managed or mentored a bunch of teams. There were a bunch of difficult problems and they asked for my help, and here is my case portfolio. By that time, you will have, I don't know, a few dozens. It will be not hundreds, but it will be a few dozen cases, and you will have basically a nice folder or report or page of text for each of those. And finally, talking about the portfolio, there will be a few more things that we will ask you to do. So one, develop a text-based training module. So it can be any topic you want. It can be either a training module on how to write a report based on your reading of the reports and some do's and don'ts. It can be some sort of a manual for a manager of teams, what to do, what not to do, what to expect. It can be addressing a specific issue. Maybe you noticed some interest in cross-cultural differences, let's say Americans versus Italians. So you can describe that. So whatever you think would be useful, it's basically a paper. And it doesn't have to be long. It can be 1 page to 10 pages more if you would like to write more. But it would be basically a text-based document that can be useful either to the students or to managers of teams or professors, or maybe to me if you have some ideas about improving the program. Then you will also be asked to deliver a video lecture. And usually it can be the same topic, but first you write it, and then you essentially deliver the lecture. And then also the same thing, video webinar, like one we have here. Again, can be same topic, can be a different topic. You can do those individually or in groups, the text-based, pre-recorded video lecture, live webinar. Most coaches do it in groups, but if you prefer to do it alone, that's perfectly fine. In fact, the default mode is alone. But if you discover someone in the group that also is interested in that topic, you can team up and do it together. And so I will be honest with you, the live webinars will not be attended by many students. You would usually have a few in the audience, but not many of them show up. And sometimes it's even a good thing because, again, some of those webinars may not be, super, super good. Some of them are excellent. Some of them are really like, wow, I mean, this is so good. I wish more students attended. Some of them are, a little amateurish. But the important thing here is that you will add that to your portfolio. And so you will do that at least once, and if you want to do it, you can do it multiple times. And you will say, when the time comes to apply for jobs, you will say that I not only mentored and managed all those teams, I also provided feedback. I developed training materials for them, and you can read them here. I delivered a couple of video lectures, and you can watch the recording here. I organized a live webinar, and you can see the recording here. And so all of that, again, those are the things that organizations need a lot. I mean, managers have to do those things, and most managers have no idea how to do it. And virtually nobody, no applicant for a job, at least in your age group, has done it. I mean, I bet that, for a job there will be, let's say, 50, 100 applicants. I bet there will be nobody but you has done all those things. And so here, it's not even how good or bad they are. I mean, some of them will be excellent, some perhaps will not be so great. But just the fact that you have it on your resume, just the fact that you have it in your portfolio, will differentiate you from the applicant pool big time. And I'm not even sure if the employers will have the time to watch your webinar or video lecture or read that material, but just the fact that you can show them, they will like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, he's done it. Okay, well, holding everything else constant, at least this person has a little experience in that area and everybody else does it. So maybe I should hire this person. And as I was telling in a joke in Italy, those of you who attended, you don't have to be perfect when you're applying for jobs or for promotions. You only have to be better than other people in the pool. So you can be not necessarily very strong, but as long as you're just a tiny bit better than all the other applicants, you will get the job. You will be promoted, not those other people. And so that's exactly what we want. So we may not be able to make you a superstar manager and coach, but we will give you something that other people in your cohort don't have. And so when the time comes to decide who gets the funding, who gets the job, who gets the scholarship, who gets the promotion, hopefully that will be you. So that's basically it. Oh, there is one more thing that we want to allow you to do, and that's what we call the pet projects. So you can think of anything you ever wanted to do within an organization. And as long as it's ethical and does not require too much resources, we will allow you to do it under the Xculture umbrella. And so those pet projects can be just about anything. So I'll just give you a few examples from the previous semesters. Some people, for example, did interviews, like a documentary about the winning teams. In fact, one person is doing one of those now about the Xculture Kids. So if you know, we have a kids program, so the same program as we do for the university students, but for younger kids. And so we had about 100 of those last semester, and then some of them did an excellent job. And so somebody is doing almost like a documentary about them. So just trying to figure out what kids learned in the process, what kind of challenges they experienced, and things like that. Or it can be, an interview with the winners of the whatever competition. Another student is trying to build not a student anymore, but was a student at the time when he went through the program, like a couch surfing platform for Xculture graduates. Again, if I'm going to Rome or if I'm going to New York, I know there are Xculture graduates there. And so we would like to have some sort of a platform where you can connect And then maybe, you know, hey, can you show me around when I'm in Rome? You're local there, so maybe we can have a cup of coffee and, you know, hang out together. And so maybe even, I don't know, like if you trust each other enough, maybe even stay at each other's house. Again, hopefully it will not be a problem and hopefully it will be safe enough. But yeah, rather than going to some, you know, Airbnb, maybe you should tap into the XCulture network, graduate network. We have about 50,000 people who have gone through the program, and it's about another 5,000 every semester. So it's a large, nice resource. So it can be just about anything. So any project you want to try, like we have another student, she works in New Mexico. She works for a customer, basically call center, and they receive a lot of calls, complaints from customers. And so she felt that the system of cataloging the complaints from customers is not good at her company. And so she tried to develop a better system, but being a young, you know, employee, she couldn't get her boss listen to her. And so what she said, she said, well, in XCulture, when we get calls for help, it's basically the same, you know, complaints. And maybe I can develop a better system for handling those complaints. And if it goes well, maybe I can come then to my manager and show him and say, hey, I developed this better system for processing complaints for XCulture. Maybe you would take a look, and if you like it, allow me to do the same thing at our company. And so hopefully one day that will happen. She's still working on some of the details, but much of the cataloging we have this time, that's based on her work. And then there is another student this semester, for example, who is working on, developing XCulture's bullying policies. So she likes or found the topic to be important, and she actually sent me the information a couple of days ago, so we hopefully will include it this semester. So we don't have much bullying, but sometimes we have situations where people, you know, are not very nice to their team members. And so we never had really any policies about that. I mean, we have a policy if that happens, we intervene, but we don't have any pre-project training, anything that students receive before the project starts. And so she's trying to develop a little sort of manual for the students, you know, what is bullying, what to do about it, how to prevent it, how to react to it when it happens, and things like that. And so again, a little thing, but you know, if she develops it when applying for jobs, she can say, yes, actually, I was trying to help a company, an organization with thousands of people participating in that project, you know, deal with bullying. And so if she will be applying for jobs in HR, for example, that's a big deal. I think that will make her much more attractive as an employee than other applicants for those jobs. So that's basically all I wanted to say. Now, if you have any questions or comments, now is a good time. And I see more people joined us. Not sure if we want to do some introductions. Let's see what questions we have, and then in the end, if we have time, maybe we'll do a few more introductions. So any comments, any questions, any observations, any concerns? Anyone? Two more things that I wanted to address. I forgot. One, head coaching program. So as you know, as I said, as the next level, if you like this one, if you want to stick around, you can then apply to be the head coach. And we usually try to have about 4 or 5 of those. I think at this time we have 9 people in the pool, and then they still have to go through some training and stuff like that. And so hopefully we will then select 5 or 6 best of them, and so keep them as head coaches. So their job will be to be sort of coaches of coaches. So they will do all kinds of things, like, for example, they will provide feedback on your feedback. So you will prepare your weekly feedback, but then they will read what you prepared and then prepare some feedback for your feedback so that you can learn from that. Likewise, when you organize webinars, video lectures, they will watch them and again provide feedback and try to help you. They will also do some administrative work. So some of the case assignments, some of the assignments of coaches to teams. So they will help us handle that, and basically will be sort of co-administrators of the program as well. And then obviously, if they see any problems, they will let me know, but also potentially will be asked to help fix those problems. Anything in the process that is slow or that is, you know, a little clunky or, you know, not working very well. So they essentially will be managers of the program. And so those of you who will like this program and will want to be the head coaches next time, you will have that opportunity to apply. And as long as you do a good job, you will have that opportunity as well. So that's one thing. And second, so with coaches, unlike students where we have thousands of them, and obviously I don't even know most of the names, with coaches we tend to develop more closer relationships, and so we know each other much better. And so here we become we become colleagues, not students and teachers. And so you basically will have some preferential treatment when it comes to, for example, symposia. So as long as you apply, we guarantee that you will be admitted and will participate. And in fact, most times you will be invited to participate not just as a student, but as an ambassador. And so as you know, that comes with a travel stipend. So we'll probably not be able to cover all your expenses, but at least we will cover some of it. And again, that will be a new experience for you. Also, hopefully some sort of like a reward, essentially a monetary reward as well. So you obviously will be always first in line, mainly because you already have more experience and you have contributed to the organization. But also, as I said, we become sort of, as I said, colleagues, friends. And so we try to, sort of reward your participation and commitment and contribution in that way. Now, we have a question from Alaran Baju. Oh yeah, thank you so much. And what kind of communication tool are we using this semester? You're asking a very, very, very good question, Alaran Baju, and I don't have the answer to that. So those of you who don't know, Alaran Baju has been with us for a long time, and so he will be one of the head coaches this time. And so we have experimented with all kinds of communication tools. And we always have this tension between, disagreement between me and Tim van der Meijden, who has been heading the coaching program, about how coaches should communicate with one another. And honestly, we're right now in the discussion to see how we would like you to communicate. Tim always wants to and always promotes the idea that we will have a platform similar to Moodle. In fact, we use Moodle, but it's similar to Blackboard or Canvas, where materials are posted, where you go, where you download things, where you communicate and stuff like that. And then he would always also create like a WhatsApp group for coaches where you can communicate. I usually don't like going into something specialized like this. I always prefer just to keep it as simple as possible. Like at this time, we just put everything in Dropbox and everybody just has access to Dropbox. And if you need any materials, you just go directly there, or we put it on the web page. If we need to send you something, we just send an email. So why you have to go and log in somewhere when you can just get the link in the email? So either way is probably equally good and probably not such a big difference. But again, right now we're trying to negotiate how coaches should be communicating. And as I said, I prefer simpler models where it's just email and Dropbox and nothing else. But at the same time, if we have something else, it's perfectly fine too. And we'll definitely have some sort of a discussion group. So it will be probably in WhatsApp or possibly a closed group in Facebook. But that's for your informal communication. And then in addition, we will have regular webinars like this one, where you guys will be meeting, sharing experiences, maybe doing some training, maybe preparing some training for one another. So those will be also happening at least once a week. You don't have to attend all of them, but there will be many opportunities for you to get involved, either as a webinar delivery person or as a participant. And so again, we'll have some of them regularly, like this one, usually once a week, where we just share experiences. But then obviously there will be some topic webinars, on a specific issue, and all of them will be recorded. So if you miss the live version, you can always watch it later. So that will be another kind of live communication. And the good thing about webinars, by the way, is that by the time you're done with the program, you know each other pretty well. You recognize each other's face. You will have had enough of those round table webinars where you share experiences. So you will become pretty close friends, at least with some of the coaches, at least those who attend those meetings more regularly. So yes, Alaran Baju, I'm sorry I didn't give you the definitive answer, but as I said, right now we are negotiating about that. And if you have any suggestions, we would like to hear them. Sayed, I see you raised your hand. Would you like to, if you want to talk? And I think Jose was trying to say something. So you can either type your comments in the Q&A or comments, or just go ahead and talk.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Weiss.
Yes.
Basically, I already participated in the last session. Already know all the things, what we have to do, how we have to face the students, how we provide the feedback. And
so you participated as a coach, right?
I need to ask that as you are, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what I need to ask is that do we need to once again fill all the surveys as we already put it, same like the training modules and all the stuff
Right.
that you
Well,
provided.
Sayed, same thing. So as I was saying to Jacob, so if you already once went through the program as a coach, maybe we can make you the head coach instead. And so please send me an email. So Jacob and Sayed, so I'm not sure why you didn't apply for the head coach program and applied for the coaching program. If you prefer to go through the coaching program again, I'm totally for it. No problem at all. If that's what you prefer, it's perfectly fine. If you, on the other hand, did not realize that you can apply to the head coach program and just applied in their own place, send me an email, and I'm very happy. We'll take a quick look at your performance records. We did have a few head coaches who applied to the head coach, or a few people who applied to the head coach program, but when I looked at their performance as coaches, it was not very good. In fact, one of them completely failed, and one of them got like all C's and D's, so not very good, you know. So we wouldn't be comfortable putting those people in charge of the coaches. But as long as your performance was good, it would make sense for you and for us to sort of promote you to that next level, and so make you a head coach. So please send me an email. We'll take a look at that. So if you prefer to stay a coach again, that's fine, and we'll deal with that. And I suppose it may not be necessary for you to do the theory training again, or maybe we'll ask you to do it, but not as a test taker, but as a test reviewer. Maybe you can provide some ideas for how to improve it this time. But yeah, send me an email. We'll deal with that at a personal, you know, in a personal communication channel. So as I said, it may be more beneficial for all of us to move you to the head coach program instead, unless you prefer to stay as a coach one more time. All right. Any other questions? Okay, well then, so we will have, yeah, Jose, did you want to say something? For some reason, the sound is not coming through, so I'm not sure if that's a technical issue or, but so if you have any questions, feel free to send an email to me anytime. So Tim van der Meijden and probably Kimberly Nesper will be helping us manage this program, so they will be your primary points of contact, and then the head coaches obviously too. And so if it's something serious, you can contact me directly. If it's something lesser important, so we'll give you email addresses that you send those questions to. And yeah, we will have these meetings on a regular basis. So if anything comes up, you will have ample opportunities to ask questions, share concerns, provide suggestions. And suggestions is the key word here. As I said, you are now not subordinates or students, you're colleagues. And so that means that you should not see yourself as a someone who should listen to the kind of commands and complete things that you're told to do. I mean, there will be some things that you sort of have to do, but you are expected to also help us manage the program. And so if you see anything that is not right, or if you see ways that something can be improved, or maybe something can be added, you are free to help here. And so that means two things. One, see something, say something. So we expect you to be a participant, active colleague. But at the same time, don't be shy to take on that responsibility. So, at the very least, let us know. But at the same time, more likely than not, you will be asked to help us address the issue. And so, as I said, if you see some things that can be improved, like maybe some policy needs to be revised, maybe some information needs to be sent to the students, maybe students don't know something and they need some sort of a webinar, maybe somebody is underperforming and needs to be talked to. More likely than not, if you notice that problem, you will be asked to do it. So we'll say, well, why don't you at least provide some suggestions and we will do it. And if not, maybe you can do it yourself. So please do see yourself as an employee of the organization, as a colleague, as opposed to as a student. And in fact, some of you are not students anymore, as far as your status goes. But for all the purposes in the program, we would like to treat you as employees, as colleagues, as co-workers, as opposed to as students. All right, well then, I'm going to stop here. So those of you, or those who missed the meeting, will watch the recording. And yeah, if anything, just send me an email, or we will meet again probably in about a week in a webinar like this. Probably less than once a week during the theory phase, but then once the practical phase starts, we'll have these meetings very regularly. All right, thank you so much. Stay in touch.